Hi everyone. I wanted to give you an update on where you are, what you're doing, where you should be at this point. I know that some of you are probably a little bit frantic, thinking like, "How can I do it?" Listen, it's a process. It's a process. I'm asking you to go through the process with me. This is not typical. Typically, what we would be doing in a class this size is that basically I'd be working almost with you individually and kind of sending you off on your own. And we would meet, and then we would have a quick discussion on where you stood, and we'd then take the next steps. If you were um, um, a student that was doing the work mostly online, then it would be much easier. There would be a couple of you guys. Typically, there isn't that many, and it would be like simple one-on-one going back and forth. And I'd be like, "All right, take this to the next level, take that to the next level. I'll be more specific about this." But basically, what I'm doing is kind of like running um, um, 11 individual projects, um, and that can get very messy. So I've had to consolidate this into a class where you learn the procedure. Now, mind you, this is not that different than what we would normally do in the capstone. The distinction is that, um, for the most part, the time that it takes for, you guys to do the work, then come see me, and then for me to review it, and then send you a message back, and then for you guys to then log in, check where you're at. That back and forth is takes a lot more time than what we would normally do if we were meeting weekly, and I would have like a weekly meeting and say, okay, this is it, okay, this is your next step, okay, this is your next step. And so because we don't have that, it just becomes a very complicated process. But the procedures are still the same. The process is still the same. What's going to happen is that your final project at the end of this is more likely to be a work in progress, right? You're not going to have that finished document that's, we would normally try to get you towards. By the way, you're going to get as close to there as possible. And um, remember, what I'm looking for is for you guys to show that you can see how these different skills come together to create this kind of capstone experience, right? What are the different skills? Well, let's think about this for a second. So, throughout this point, you either have taken or are working on. You've done the intro course. You've taken a couple of sociology classes. You've uh, have done research methods, you've done the statistics class, you've taken the theory class, and of course, you've taken all these other sociology classes. Not only sociology classes, remember, you've taken classes in all other different social sciences and in other areas. You also bring your own experience into this. Some of you have done the internship already, so you've kind of connected that part of it. So the question is, right, if you were being asked, you know, how do all these things come together to produce information for someone? That's what this is. This is like bringing all those skills together. And I want to make sure you know that you're aware that that's what we're doing. So, you have to create a sociological question, something that you're interested in, right? Based on something that you've seen, learned, wanted to know about. The great thing about sociology is that it doesn't have to be, you know, specific to one thing, one area. It could be, almost anything could be sociological in nature, right? We're talking about human behavior. So that's the first step, is kind of asking the general question. The next thing you want to do, right, is you want to think about, all right, what is it that I'm looking at, right? Specifically, what is it that I'm looking at? I'm interested in, you know, the effects of income inequality, on by race, right? That might be a question. I might be interested in how important education it really is, right? How important is education to, you know, getting a job, right? You guys are in the middle of this right now, and you keep hearing that, an education is the only way to be able to make money. Well, how true is that, right? There's some questions about it. Do you need a college education? Do you not need a college education? What is going on there, right? So what you want to do is, oh, all right, Now that I know basically what the relationship I'm looking at, right? Does education affect a person's income, right? Now I want to break them down into variables. What are my variables? Well, education is a variable. All right, education. What's the next variable? Oh, income. Income's the next variable, right? Education causes income. There's my causal relationship. Education causes income, right? However, what else affects income? Well, I know race affects income. I know gender affects income, right? That's the whole thing about the wage gap. I know that has an effect. I know that probably there are other things out there that have an effect, but how do I know what has an effect and what doesn't? And has there been research done on this? Oh, let me go and figure this out. I will do a literature review to find out what have people done in this particular setting. So you go out there and you collect the literature on education and income. In this case, you kind of keep it narrow. So you look to see, all right, now you want, right, academic journals. You're not looking for newspaper articles. This is you know, you're looking for peer-reviewed academic research. And so you go out and you collect information and you write it out, right? You write out the findings. You take notes on what you find, right? This will tell you what is it that you expect will have an effect on income with education. The next step is, all right, if I'm going to research this further, I'm interested in kind of doing this, but now, you know what? All these studies and everything is national, all this stuff is right here. I'm interested in knowing what is the effect of income on education in Massachusetts. So now you want to be much more specific, right? So you kind of narrow, but this is the way that they've done it. So you replicate or, kind of copy that study as best you can for the state of Massachusetts. There's plenty of data and stuff like that. You can get iPumps data and things like that. So you apply some of the statistical knowledge that you have. You could also decide to do a content review, to kind of see, you know, what information is out there that has existed that has been telling people that. So you might switch the question around and say, huh, no, all this research says that education is very important to income. So the question becomes is, well, where is this other, why is this story kind of out there? Why do I have this self-doubt? Right? So maybe now what you want to do is you want to look at a content analysis to see in the media where these things are coming from. So you go through, you decide, all right, what media sources I want to go to. And then you pick out certain media sources, like you can say, local news, and you can do this. And then you can do a search in local media or in national media and say for the effect of education and income, education and income, education and income. And then you could see what stories are out there, how these stories have been told, and you can do an analysis, right, on what is creating this story. Where does the story come from? What is the pattern of these stories? And that in and of itself, it's another way of doing research that doesn't require you to do the quantitative stuff, but then also, it's a simple, table counting. So it's still kind of quantitative, meaning, okay, I saw this many stories this many times. But these are ways in which you can kind of get at answering these types of questions, right? This is what this is about. It's about understanding this process. So remember, it's about the process that you're working on. Are you going to get to the final answer? Probably not. We're not probably going to have enough time to get us all there together, right? Some of you might not, but that's not what I need, right? What I need is for you to show me how you work towards that. At the end, I will give you a way to kind of like sum it all up into, something meaningful. But at this point, what I want you guys to work on is working at how you develop these steps. The sections that I've opened up, and you're not seeing what you see, this is what you will see, right? These other sections that I've opened up, the literature review, I just changed it from week 3 to literature review. So this other section that I've opened up is basically summarizing this. It's giving you a chance to think about this next step, and how to get there. And that's what I want you guys to start working towards, right? If you're still kind of confused, don't overthink this. Use my example, right? It's about the procedure. It isn't about the answering. This isn't your maxim opus. This is nothing like that. This is just about knowing the steps. And it's you doing it hopefully in a way that's interesting to you, but it's about knowing the steps. So steal my idea and run with it. All right? Don't feel like that's an issue.